Could this just be another apocalypse every day when we see these things? Are we on the verge of an apocalypse? I wrestle with anxiety almost daily, and a lot of people do as well. And the numbers are on the rise every day, every year. People are starting to suffer from anxiety more and more. And it's not just the fleeting kind. It's not like the, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to walk out the door, I'm afraid to get in the car, like some of those common ones that stimulate from fear of the unknown. I have a different type, the kind that grips you, that whispers in your ear, you're not doing enough, you're not becoming enough, and you are not enough. So that is borderline another thing besides anxiety. It's a self-esteem type thing. But that's an anxiety that people have because we live in a world that is really conducive to performance and always on the go and comparing yourself to the Joneses next door. And it's on the rise with social media increasing exposure everywhere, and you're seeing all the things that are happening. This form of anxiety that kind of grips you with comparison bias is happening. But when you look around modernity, we're raising kids now in the ashes of where we used to roam till the streetlights came on, till we had to be home. Out of sight does not mean out of mind anymore. It means more stress, more monitoring, and more fear, because we're constantly exposed to all the things that we're seeing happen to all of the many millions of people in the world through social media. We have conditioned to always be on. Our notifications on our phone buzz all the time. News is always there. Pick your poison, they're all horrible. There's outrage and comparison bias everywhere. Could this just be another apocalypse every day when we see these things? Are we on the verge of an apocalypse? One of many that us millennials have encountered and endured in our lives. Now, it's not the fire and the brimstone type. No. That's not the kind that we're talking about. Because see, if you take that religious bias away from it, we're not talking the end of the world. We're talking the end of our inner world, our perception. So it's not the fire and brimstone. It's a totally different type of apocalypse that happens all the time. The destruction of our perception of reality, of our id and ego, as Freud might have called it. And we live through these consistently. So what if the apocalypse is happening daily? Not cosmic, but personal. So if you look at the word apocalypse, it doesn't actually mean the end. It means revelation, an unveiling, a stripping away even of whatever is that item. It's the death of what we thought was true. And it's when the structures in our head or in the world collapse. The systems around us, or systems in our head of doing, our identity, our habits, our community, or a system. Plain and simple. Now, it can be very terrifying, as humans typically dislike change. We like patterns. We like consistently going through things, especially in rapid succession. And if you're a millennial listening to this, in my personal opinion, we have lived through more apocalypses in our brief history since the 80s, all the way till now, than the previous several generations combined. Now, I understand we have the Dust Bowl, we have the market collapse of, the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl. You have World War II, you have World War I, the Korean War, Vietnam War. So there's a lot that they've gone through. But the thing that systemically brings them all together for them, that don't make them apocalypses, is there was a unity amongst the vision. We all believe that we will get through the Great Depression There was a unity in the nation. We all believed World War I was just and World War II was just, and we were fighting evil. We came together as a unified approach. So instead of being an apocalypse, it became a united force of good. So a lot of these things that were happening were either through propaganda or cultural belief, a unification thing. So it wasn't necessarily an apocalypse. But things that have happened to millennials, it's a lot different. 9/11 started to be the unification, but then the conspiracy theories rise through social media, the distrust of the government increased, the Patriot Act took away lots of freedoms, and you start peeling that onion away, and you start to see the trauma in there, the apocalypse that's happening, our visions changing as we evolve. And now as we peel away the onion deeper, we start to see the problems with the Korean War, the problems with the Vietnam War. All these things are coming to the light, that those become apocalypses for those people now as their vision changes. So these systems we live in, these systems that we build up to believe in, the economy, our jobs, consumerism, national parks, religion, these are all systems. And these systems, they cast shadows. Just as everything that is tangible will cast a shadow, these systems too can cast shadows, intangible as they are. This shadow is not seen with the eye. It's not something we can perceive. But we all see it and feel it internally. I guess that is a form of perception. The shadow neatly wraps around our own personal shadow that we cast in our everyday actions. Carl Jung called it the shadow self, that parts of ourselves that we exile, we anger, we envy, we fear, our weaknesses of ourselves. That is the shadowness within ourselves. We bury these things deep, pretend that they're not us, even shame them in others when we project ourselves onto them. The more we deny them, the louder they get. We often forget this, and it expressed time and time again in both in our world and ourselves, that which we suppress and ignore rise up to meet us. The shadow doesn't disappear, it projects. You repress your rage and suddenly everyone seems aggressive. You hide your grief and you feel cold and unkind in this world. Our collective shadow shows up in society too. So all these systems that have these shadow sides of them, the racism, the exploitation, the violence, the 1%ers against the poor, like these are all things that are projecting from these systems. Things we oppose but rarely integrate are shadows. Laws and bureaucratic ventures cast long shadows into the future. The unintended side effects of contrast and control. The systems suppress human nature in order to fit everyone publicly in a box that cause us to split, and our darkest shadows start to splinter off into view because we're trying to be formed into these things that the systems want us to be in order to allow it to move and grow without having to deal with its own shadows. The shadowy microsome becomes our macrosome's reality. The global crisis, social media trends, endless data feeds, these are all the macrosome of all these microsome shadows, right? All these things can be great, but they also have a shadowy side that dims up. If you're a millennial in the early internet, you have seen the Faces of Death videos and have been traumatized by them, most likely. That's true. Those are the shadow sides of these internets and these social media trends that bubble up. But healing doesn't happen out there, right? So healing doesn't happen in the world. It doesn't happen in these systems, and broadly speaking. Healing starts here. It starts here, in the microsome. It starts in your home and in your breath and in your body and your neighborhood, and it grows out. And as these systems start to heal their shadows, as you heal your own, then we can start to really reap the benefits of a better system, a better tomorrow. Before the internet, when you left a conversation, it ended. You had a space to process, silence to alchemize the noise and the wisdom. But today you don't have that. As soon as you get over with one, another thing begins. The feed never sleeps. The endless scrolling is always there. You're always exposed to it. The electronic interruptions from digital use before bed, the EMF that is affecting the subneuron transmissions and the dopamine addiction that keeps us triggering to the next thing going 24/7. It's why we doomscroll for an hour after being tired in bed, is because we want that next hit of excitement. These things were designed to be addictive, and these are the shadowy selves of those things. But in the destruction of normality lies something ancient. It's a transfiguration, the transformation of the mind and the soul within these things. When your world ends and you survive, because we all will in these type of apocalypses, you're not who you were before. Your perception has been destroyed and retransfigured into something different. We're not meant to heal by going back into figuring out how it was. We're meant to heal by taking that, alchemizing it internally, processing it, putting it to bed, and moving on with better knowledge and wisdom. There's no perfect map to this. There's nothing that you can do. It's sacred work. It's hard work, but it's the only thing that will make you become really whole in this whole adventure. And it's the only thing that will really help improve society and move ourselves forward. But we can begin stopping the scrolling, stopping these shadows casting and projecting out there in both systems and within ourselves. You can close this loop down. And doing so requires sitting with what we really are. What is really ours to own? What is ours to have? We can teach our kids that the magic of being bored is something to be cherished. It's a sacred thing. Boredom is not a thing to move away from or shy from. Boredom is good because it allows you to process thoughts. It allows you to deal with those shadow things, those little pop-ups that get you when you're bored. Those, I don't want to think about that, but eventually you're forced to. There's a beauty to boredom. There's a beauty to boredom. We can reclaim our woods. We can go out into parks and clean them up and help establish a better process for them, right? So these are things in your neighborhood that give you space to be you, give you space to be bored, give you space to relax and deal with those shadow castings that are happening, the projections. These are sacred spaces, the parks and the woods and our areas and the forest around us. These are things that should not be taken for granted, but so much really are, as we almost just lost a bunch of public land, which I'll do a video on in the future. And when we have these spaces and they're clean and they're tidy and they're well maintained because you started to work on your shadow self and you see the benefit of these places, and you can go and you can sit and you can watch the birds fly and the squirrels collect nuts and the kids laughing and kicking the ball. You've entered the sacral. You've entered the liminal. We can love the small things again, the shadow, the noise, the microsome of ourselves, because it's all sacred territory in there. And the apocalypse doesn't mean death. It doesn't have to mean death. It can come to mean truth, your personal growth inside. It can mean the freedom of choice internally to choose whether you project that shadow or you rein that shadow in and you try to alchemize it to a better tomorrow, to wisdom for you in the future. It can mean many things. And I just want to say thank you guys for listening to this, and hope you take away that the apocalypses that we live through are something that we can control to a certain degree and work to make a better tomorrow by understanding it more in depthly of ourselves. To know thyself is the beginning of all wisdom. So thanks for being here. And until next time, keep dreaming, keep working on healing, and remember, this is the liminal dream. Anything's possible.